Hi, and welcome to today's Daily Chronicle. Today is Thursday, September 11th, 2025. DHS is encouraging officials in other states to upload data to the system, even going so far as to make millions of dollars of grant money contingent on them using it. But USCIS did not respond to NPR's questions about what happens to the data states upload and who has access to it. And officials in other GOP led states have expressed caution after using the system. Last month, North Carolina's Republican controlled state election board did not take up an offer by USCIS to participate in a soft launch of the upgraded tool. Spokesperson Patrick Gannon told NPR in a statement that state officials are pursuing agreements to ensure that proper safeguards would be in place to protect and secure the data. If a decision to ultimately made to use the service, Mississippi Secretary of State Michael Watson, a Republican, told NPR that upgraded SAVE seems like a fantastic tool, but he still has questions before he can run his voter list through it to ensure it is authorized under state law. Where is the data going? And at the end of the day, is it stored? What are they going to do with it? Who has access? Is it shared? Watson told NPR last month, "I don't want to do something that I don't necessarily have the ability to do without legislative authority. So we just want to be very clear on that before we move forward." SAVE concerns are compounded by other Trump moves on elections. The push for states to have upgraded data systems comes as the Trump administration is taking unprecedented steps to assert control over elections as well as collect and aggregate personal data on Americans, at times potentially risking the security of that data. Numerous voting officials told NPR they felt the revamped SAVE tool could be useful for confirming citizenship status without encumbering voters. And many Democrats have acknowledged the efforts by Trump's USCIS to work in a bipartisan fashion. But concerns about SAVE are compounded by other moves by President Trump administration. Trump continues to make baseless claims about widespread non-citizen voting, has attempted to change voter registration rules to include proof of citizenship requirements, and has directed the Justice Department to prioritize prosecuting non-citizens who register or vote. DHS also recently elevated a person who spread conspiracy theories about the 2020 election to post on election integrity. As part of the administration's stated aim to crack down on non-citizenship voting, USCIS prioritized updating the data system known as systematic alien verification for entitlements, or SAVE. The state and federal agencies have for decades used to query DHS databases to determine if foreign-born individuals are eligible for various benefits. The agency, working with the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, made SAVE free to the states and allowed bulk searches, as opposed to looking at one person at a time. changes that were celebrated by many voting officials. It's getting access to the data that already exists and just making it so election officials can more easily compare things without making it hard for voters, said Idaho Secretary of State Phil McCrane, a Republican who has begun testing out SAVE's upgraded capabilities. I'm trying to make it easier for voters while also doing these validations. In May, USCIS linked data from the Social Security Administration, allowing election officials for the first time to check the citizenship of many U.S.-born citizens with the voter's name, date of birth, and 9-digit Social Security number. NPR was the first news outlet to report on the change. The integration with Social Security Administration data also means SAVE can show if someone appears on the agency's death master file. Since most states only collect the last 4 digits of Social Security numbers from voters, the latest upgrade swung the door open for many more states to use SAVE. USCIS says almost 80% of the 33 million voters validated via SAVE were run through the system since August 15 change. An unprecedented push for voter data. In mid-July, California Senator Alex Padilla and 2 other Democratic U.S. senators formally requested information on the updated SAVE system from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, including the accuracy rate of the SAVE program, what data USCIS stores and who has access, and whether the agency is following protocols spelled out in federal privacy laws. The senators asked for answers by July 29th, but have not heard back. In light of the president's threats to issue unconstitutional executive orders to interfere with state elections, DHS owes Congress and the public some public transparency about what they are doing with voter rolls, Padilla told NPR. SAVE pings a number of data sources as opposed to being a database in and of itself. But under USCIS policy, all queries are saved for 10 years for audit purposes. If a state runs its whole voter list through the tool, that data will remain with DHS for a decade. Maine Secretary of State Sheena Bellows, a Democrat, told NPR that such a system sounded like the beginnings of a national voter registration list that would raise privacy and security concerns. They said they're going to keep our data for 10 years, Bellows says. If former Attorney General Merrick Garland were asking for this, or President Biden, I have to think that the red states would be calling for their heads. The agreements that states signed to use SAVE include a clause that grants DHS permission to use information from the states for any purpose permitted by law, including but not limited to the prosecution of violations of federal administrative or criminal law. At a White House meeting about SAVE in late July, USCIS officials tried to reassure state voting officials about sharing sensitive voter data, according to Connecticut Secretary of State Stephanie Thomas, who attended the meeting. They said many times look, we know the states are in charge of elections. We don't want your data. We don't want your lists, Thomas recalled. But in recent weeks, the Department of Justice has been making controversial demands to numerous states to turn over such data, like driver's license numbers and partial security numbers. Thomas, a Democrat, said that when a Republican Secretary of State pointed out the DOJ's voter data demands to USCIS officials, the officials responded that they worked for a separate agency. The worst thing you can get is a false positive. USCIS hasn't publicized detailed evidence about the accuracy of the tool or shared what testing went into the program before it was released to states. Though it asserts SAVE's security accuracy has marked improved with the recent upgrades. But voting rights groups and some election officials are voicing concerns that eligible voters could face barriers in casting ballots or improperly removed from the rolls if states over-rely on incomplete information from SAVE. USCIS acknowledges that certain categories of people who acquired U.S. citizenship, such as some foreign-born children of U.S. citizens, cannot be verified by SAVE. Furthermore, data matching in the elections is notoriously difficult, and there are questions about the completeness of the Social Security Administration citizenship data USCIS is relying on. Wellesley Wilcox, a Republican election supervisor in Marion County, Florida, signed an agreement this summer giving his county access to SAVE. But he said he plans to double-check any data he gets from the system, since he's encountered multiple instances in which SSA data indicated a person was dead, but they weren't. It's like any new process that you put into effect. We're going to do that legwork, Wilcox said. And I want to be as accurate as humanly possible at all times. For a portion of foreign-born individuals, SAVE prompts user agencies to submit more information, such as person's naturalization certificate number or alien registration number, for their case to be manually reviewed. USCIS told NPR that of the 33 million voters submitted to the upgraded SAVE so far, less than 1% have required that manual review. The agency did not respond to NPR's question about the results of the manual review, how many non-citizens on voter rolls have been identified to date, or what the portion of the results so far were inconclusive. While USCIS's materials say election officials are not supposed to reject voter registrations or remove voters from the rolls if the SAVE system asks for more voter information. It is not yet clear if there are consequences if states skip those steps. Last year, thousands of U.S. citizens in states including Alabama, Virginia, and Texas were removed from the rolls or deactivated from election officials relied on imperfect data to identify suspected non-citizens. Conservative election integrity advocates the broadly celebrated SAVE's development, but among some, there is also an acknowledgement that states need to be cautious while removing people from voter rolls. I hope that a great deal of care and a great deal of contemplation is going in this process. Because the worst thing you can get is a false positive, says J. Christian Adams, president of the Conservative Public Interest Legal Foundation. The worst thing you could do, as some states have done in the past, is remove a citizen from the voter rolls as a non-citizen. That should not happen. In 2019, a court settlement required Adams to apologize to a group of Virginia voters his organization incorrectly claimed were not citizens. Louisiana's test case. In the most in-depth data about the updated SAVE is working came last week from Louisiana. The state's Republican Secretary of State, Nancy Landry, told reporters that by using SAVE, her office identified 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who they believe are non-citizens. 390 people on the voter rolls who 79 of them were found to have voted. Laundrie says that there was a review of each suspected non-citizen, and her office worked with the FBI to investigate their citizenship status. They have been given notice. We have a reason to believe they are not a U.S. citizen. Laundrie says they have the opportunity to come in and provide documentation that they are in fact a U.S. citizen. Anyone who does not respond or provide proof within 21 days is removed from the rolls, Laundrie says. And non-citizens who registered to vote, regardless of whether they were among the 79 who voted in recent decades, will be referred for criminal prosecution. The number of suspected non-citizen Louisiana found to have voted among is less than 0.003% of the state's registered voters, a percentage that aligns with what many other reviews on the issue have found. The very small numbers suggest that the results are what we expected, and that they are not alarming, said Stewart of MIT. He added that the number might shrink further, as some people may prove to be citizens. Yet, even as there are signs the SAFE program is generating helpful data, Stewart said it is troubling that USCIS is withholding answers to key questions, like what happens when the data is uploaded, or detailed breakdowns on the SAFE results so far. In Minnesota, state voting officials would need a change of state law to use SAFE for elections. But Secretary of State Stephen Simon, a Democrat, said he won't push for such a change until he has more clarity on how it works. Certainly it's impressive that what they've done in a short period of time, Simon says. But I'd want to see a lot more by way of testing and assurances about the accuracy before we would be willingly an enthusiastic participant. University event. What we know. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot at an event he was hosting at Utah Valley University in Orem, just north of Provo. President Donald Trump said on Truth Social that Kirk is dead. Kirk was removed from the premises by his security team, the school said. Video circulating online show Kirk recoiling after a shot was heard, with blood pouring from his neck. A university spokesperson said authorities do not have a suspect in custody. The school previously said in an alert that the police had detained a suspect. Kirk was murdered by a gunshot at Utah Valley University, a spokesperson for Turning Point USA confirmed in a statement to NBC News. We ask that everyone keep his family and loved ones in your prayers, the organization said. We ask that you please respect their privacy and dignity at this time. Students who are still on campus are being offered police escorts as authorities continue to search for the shooter. Police will come and escort you out of the building. The university wrote on X. Public transportation is available at Orem Station by pedestrian bridge.
Raydon Deshane, she was up near the front of the crowd when Kirk was shot. Raydon, what did you see?
Well, I was just up there at the second debate. They were talking about guns and the transgender issue that's going on right now. And all of a sudden we heard it just like a pop. Saw Charlie all of a sudden just kind of lean back. I thought he put his hand up, but looking at videos, he didn't. But his eyes went back, his head went back, and I just saw blood. And then I kind of looked back over my shoulder to look up the hill. And then all of a sudden I that's a gun, so we're all dropping. So we all get on the ground, and then they're like, okay, you guys need to run. We got up by the time Charlie was already gone. So they took him off.
Were you able to see them sort of take Charlie out after he had been shot?
No, we were on the ground. We were on the ground. I just saw the blood in his head. I saw the shot, heard it, and then just dropped to the ground.
And when you turned around, you said you looked up the hill and you saw a gun. What exactly did you see?
No, I know
long gun?
sorry.
Okay. I misunderstood you. When you turned up, what did you see up the hill?
Just everybody started to drop. Just everybody started to drop down. Because there was a lot of people there.
And did it sound like the gun shot had come from behind you?
Yeah, it sounded like it came from behind me. I couldn't be 100% sure. I have some permanent hearing loss.
Yeah.
But that's what it sounded like to me, that it came up from behind me.
What did you think when you saw Charlie get hit? I mean, it's such a terrible thing to have to witness.
It seemed very, surreal. Like it wasn't real. I'd be like, you're like watching it from another point of view, that you're not really there.
Were you there as a supporter, somebody that wanted to talk to him, debate him? What brought you to the event?
No, I just wanted to watch. I love Charlie Kirk. I watch a lot of his videos. I don't agree on everything. But there's a lot of points I like, and then I also learn a lot from the more liberal left side. Because I do like to know their point of view too, because I like to have that open mind. And so I was just kind of there to be able to see it live and be able to hear, the back and forth.
What was the temperature of the crowd? I mean, were people excited there? We were hearing there was a lot of supporters, mostly supporters.
We were having a lot of fun. Yeah, there was a lot of supporters there.
And then what was the MAGA hat? Yeah, what kind of security presence did you notice around Charlie? Any at all?
There was no security going in. They didn't even check for look at tickets. He had security team. There was some police officer, but it didn't feel like it was a very large presence.
Yeah. And then after the shot and he goes down, do police, do you hear sirens, do police say anything? Is there any kind of screaming to get out?
The screaming I heard to get out sounded more like it was from the crowd. And as we were running, because normally it probably came down because it was an area that was blocked off for just basic Charlie and security and that. And so we weren't supposed to be down there, but that's how we all ran out, was through that way. I saw a couple cops with their pistols kind of drawn, but they weren't like pointed at anybody per se. They just kind of had their guns out holding them. And then as I was leaving, there was a lot of police coming into the campus.
Some other eyewitnesses we had spoken to said they had noticed the elderly man that was taken into custody that had been apparently arrested for this shooting. Police have confirmed that they have a suspect in custody. Did you notice, I don't know if you've seen the video on social media of the takedown, but have you noticed this man?
I didn't notice him. I was there when it was fairly sparse as far as the crowd. Because I got there early. Because I wanted to be at front. So by the time I looked around, there was tons of people, and I can't say that I saw him.
And then finally, your friends, did you go solo or were you there with friends or family? Solo. Did people seem to get out okay? It didn't look like anybody else was hurt in the exit, or because I don't know if there was people getting trampled.
Yeah, it was just one shot.
No, but in the exit, in the running away of the event.
No, but I mean, I got stepped on a little bit. I had those sandals on, and they fell off, but I was able to grab them and run. It wasn't anything that was dangerous getting out of there.
Yeah, and then again, this area, this part of Utah, from what we heard from other eyewitnesses, is very friendly to Charlie Kirk and to the MAGA movement, to President Trump. How surprised were you that this happened right in front of your eyes?
I kind of had like a... I was hoping that there would be better security, just because you never know. Because there are wackadoodles out there, and who knows where they're coming from. They come in, I mean, just because Utah is usually a safe state, doesn't mean that somebody from that's going to just come in, or he may have been from Utah. Who knows? I was just really disappointed in the actual security part of it.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. In getting out, once you were able to get out of the amphitheater, were you able to get back to your car or get back to however you got there, the bus? Whichever way you went, because it seemed like sort of a massive perimeter by law enforcement.
I got out real just fine. I parked a little ways away because the parking for non-students was just a little paid parking. And it was just a little bit of a trek, but it wasn't that bad of a deal. But it wasn't right there, so I felt, once I got past a few buildings, I felt fine.
Okay, Ray Don DeShane, we thank you for joining us here in our special coverage as we cover what's happened there.
33 million voters have been run through a Trump administration citizenship check. Tens of millions of voters have had their citizenship status and other information checked using a ramped-up tool offered by the Trump administration, even as many states, led by both Democrats and Republicans, are refusing or hesitating to use it because of outstanding questions about the system. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, says election officials have used the tool to check the information of more than 33 million voters. A striking portion of the American public, considering little information has been made public about the tool's accuracy or data security. The latest update to the system, known as SAVE, took effect August 15 and allows election officials to use just the last 4 digits of voters' social security numbers, along with names and dates of birth, to check if the voters are U.S. citizens or if they have died. The upgrade makes the tool far more accessible, since it now aligns with the information most states collect or have access to for most voters. But the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, which houses USCIS, has not responded to questions about the system from members of Congress. And numerous election officials, NPR spoke with expressed concern about what else the Trump administration could do with the data it acquires from states. There's still uncertainty about what is happening. What happens to the data that are shared with USCIS, says Charles Stewart, a political science professor who directs the MIT Election Data and Science Lab. I don't know if this means the USCIS now has a depository of 1/6 of all the country's registered voters. In recent months, several Republican-led states have brokered new agreements with USCIS to use SAVE or announce the results of SAVE reviews. Ohio election officials will begin removing from their rolls thousands of inactive voters that SAVE identified as deceased. And Louisiana's Secretary of State announced last week that officials identified 79 likely non-citizens who had voted in at least one election since the 1980s, after running nearly all of the state's 2.9 million registered voters through SAVE.